Good evening from South Warren High School. You're watching the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network. Baseline complex and Superintendent of Warren County Schools, Rob Clayton, is joining us. And after that rain on Saturday doing the track meet just a few hundred feet from here, Rob Clayton, I was worried about playing tonight because this infield was underwater and there was a lawn tractor stuck at shortstop.
Along with, I'm sure, some tremendous parent valuable and the players, but field looks beautiful.
Ground ball to the third baseman, Riley Saxon, throws out Dalen Rigsby as Adam Logston, the catcher, struck out to start the game. Warren Central is without their head coach, Steve Alpert. He got sent home COVID protocol right now, so there's lost one from last week when they played Bowling Green. On the mound is Cole House. That was South Warren. You just can't Stevens.
Watching a little bit of weather is nice. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that every spring activity. One did the meeting, and actually our softball team there at Greenwood also was throwing out the first pitch as I left a hit.
Shouldn't we? Do we have a video clip anywhere?
No, I was trying to hightail it not to be late here.
It's fouled back by Cade Stevens, the senior third baseman from Warren Central. Speaking of Greenwood softball, there's been a schedule change. If you follow us on our Twitter at WCPS Sports or our Facebook page, Warren County Public Schools Sports Network, for that one, cutting over Saxon in front of the shortstop. Taylor throws. And in time, it's a 1-2-3 first inning for Cole House and South Warren. Rob Clayton here with us, superintendent of schools, and I know he's got a lot of valuable time. But last week, you held a community forum, I believe, at Warren Central High School, sharing a lot of information. I watched a lot of that, a lot of good information. If people didn't get to see it, just kind of give us a brief synopsis of what that entailed and what you all covered last week.
Well, first of all, we try to hold a community council meeting 4 times a year during the school year. We hold it and host it at each of our 4 feeder high schools. The pandemic, even though things are parent representatives in each of our 23 schools come in, we try as best we can to provide as much early information next year. Of course, I think everyone knows we're very optimistic that we'll be able to go back 5 days a week. That's been our plan originally, and would have done that here in the spring, Scott, if we felt like that was the best course of action for our staff. But we have so many doing dual and multiple roles that we really felt that it was most reasonable to go back 4 days a week and use that 5th day to work in a variety of different areas, including small group instruction, individual instruction, but then also professional development. We've really challenged
players tonight. They've got 3 or 4 that got injured earlier. Then they've got one that's being on COVID sequestered, you might say, as he's not here. So limited numbers to begin with, but you got to like what Steve talked with Steve Albert last week at the Bowling Green game. His attitude. You know,
what it takes is a dedicated adult third that can lead our responsibility for focus on the third down house out laying that foundation. I know it's going to make superintendent proud when you see the something this season that you're putting into what you modeled last week. You're hearing Rob Clayton, superintendent of Warren County Schools, coming to the plate. Tanner Graves, the senior designated hitter, and got a courtesy runner for South Warren, and also covered, I think part of it was covered was about the athletic facilities and being at an athletic sporting event. Really across the state when you talk about the top teams, and it's going to be interesting to see who filters to the top at the end of the season.
Tanner Graves, as you see, hits it off the top of the wall out in left field for a stand-up double. Brings the shortstop, the senior Dalton Taylor, to the plate. You know, South Warren has had tremendous success with Chris Gage. His team, if you want to say so, is the defending region champs. There was nothing played in 2020, so 2019. You know, they lost at the state tournament, but he's taken his team to the state tournament several times.
Yeah, very impressive. Like I said earlier, he's developed a program, and when you develop strong programs, they're going to be contenders each and every year. And certainly that's what South Warren has been over the last at least 5-6 years, and looks like this year is no different.
Of course, Warren Central has had, excuse me, a tradition of success for many years. Took a while once that school was formed from Warren County to Warren Central. It took that program. I think it was 11, 12 years before they saw a first district championship. Early 80s. Then you had Dale Lindsay come in as a football coach. You know, a couple of back-to-back winning seasons there. Then you have a Curtis Turley wins the first district title for Warren Central. Then you have success. You get a Damon Hood, Mr. Football. Then you get a Kelly Johnson, a Miss Softball, a Derek Alfonso. You start mentioning names. You get the Venus Lloyds. There's a rich history at Warren Central.
Absolutely. And of course, anytime you see a population growth and you have to split and create a new high school, there's going to be some growing pains with not only the new school, but the school that is kind of left behind, if you will, in terms of how the split occurs. But at the end of the day, it really requires very talented adults to come together and not only, again, build a program, but do it the right way. And I have every confidence that that's occurring right now.
Dalton Taylor with a double into left field. That'll score Tanner Graves. Brings a cleanup hitter, Austin Flynn, the senior first baseman. 2-0 South Warren here in the bottom of the first. And, of course, the other schools, Warren East, let's talk about them. Class 2A state championship game, the first ever state 2A tournament. They lose in the championship game. The baseball team played on late. There's a base hit to left field by Austin Flynn, and Taylor's going to round and score from second. But they go up and they make it to the semifinals of the 2A. So very impressive in that first ever event there.
It's great to see our smaller schools have an opportunity through the Class A and Class 2A tournaments. Of course, we don't have a Class A high school, but it'll be interesting to see as that continues to evolve just how well both Warren Central and Warren East compete in all the championships that are offered at that classification.
And, of course, Greenwood, they've had success in many sports. Once that program got started, just like with any new program, it took them a while to get going. Finally winning in football, they won in basketball. Of course, they've had very good success in cross-country, track, and softball over the years. And then now South Warren and Greenwood with lacrosse. That's starting to gain in popularity around here, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's something that we want to do is offer opportunities for kids. And we often share that the most important activity or opportunity that we provide is the one that your son or daughter is involved in. And I think when you just look at the facilities, it demonstrates that. Just left, as you mentioned earlier, Greenwood's tennis complex, something that was long overdue, and we're so proud to be able to unveil those 10 courts and provide those kids with state-of-the-art facilities for tennis. And we're going to keep doing that until we have all 4 of our high schools as showcase high schools, and we're close.
Ground ball by Cole House into right field. Austin Flynn will go to third. It'll be first and third with nobody out here in the bottom of the first. South Warren leading Warren Central 3-0. Now, I guess the next question we're going to have to get with Mr. McIntyre about is this bass fishing. Are we going to create a lake here for the 4 schools to fish in?
Yeah, I don't know if a lake is in the plans. We may have to just shuttle them up to Barron River, but how about that? We had 2 teams from South Warren just this past weekend qualify for the state competition, and in talking to a few folks, that was some pretty miserable conditions that our young student athletes weathered throughout Saturday, and again, it paid off for 2 teams, and that's something that, again, we're just excited that we're in a position to offer that opportunity for students.
Tucker Bishop with a base hit into the left field area and goes to the wall. He's going to end up with a triple, so he drives home 2 more as Austin Flynn and Cole House both score. 5-0 South Warren here in the bottom of the first. Brings up Andy Croft, the junior right fielder. Going on tonight, baseball. Warren East is at Bowling Green. Tomorrow night we'll be at Warren East for Bowling Green at Warren East, 6 o'clock. And then Wednesday, as we said, the softball game. possibly still number one, and Greenwood's liable to move up. Both South Warren and Greenwood getting wins over a top 10 team in Mail on Friday night at the Greenwood Border Battle before he got rained out. Ground ball to the third baseman. Croft is going to get on base as Stevens' throw went into the dirt, chasing it down in right field. Bishop will score, and Croft will go to third base. And you're talking about the weather. Mike and I were battling the elements with the track meet out here Saturday, and hats off to those athletes. Mike really zoomed in on some of these athletes. They're shivering, waiting, especially on those relays. That driving rain had a breeze blowing. Yeah, it said 50-something degrees, but it didn't feel like 50-something degrees.
No, it's not going to in mid-April. As a former track and field coach, I had plenty of those experiences, and it can be brutal. Even though it may say it's 50 degrees, the wind, the cold, rain, it certainly feels much colder.
Kobe Martin, the junior center fielder, will come up. Nobody out here in the bottom of the first, 7-0. South Warren leading Warren Central. Warren Central with 9 players here tonight. One of them, the only way they're able to play is playing with a broken finger. How about that? Ground ball to the first baseman. Levi Mosley steps on the bag. And there is one out here in the bottom of the first. Moving to second, Riley Saxton. But yeah, Huntsman, the Huntsman young man, he broke his finger last week against Bowling Green in the game we were doing. He came out of the game, saw him before the game talking with his dad, and he's got that finger taped up. So for him to be here, that gives him enough to play tonight.
How special is that? It's easy to admire the student athletes that are playing on championship caliber teams and so forth. But the reality is when you see student athletes that play it for the right reasons, if you will, and one such as this, sacrificing his own limb, it sounds like, just so they can have a game tonight. That's really what it's all about.
And he's a senior.
Wow.
So that tells you right there.
Wow. Special.
The 1-0 count on the way. Fly ball into right field. That's Aiden Compton going back. He came in, went over his head. That ball took off on him. Rounding third will be Riley Saxton. And Keenan Milby will end up at third with a triple. That's the 9th man to bat in the inning for South Warren.
Scott, nobody likes to lose, but the reality is in life, you need to learn how to handle that. And that's something that we find is a very valuable aspect of playing sports and certainly extracurricular activities. And couldn't be more proud. Just look at the Dragon players right now. You can tell that although they're very disappointed and they're in the middle of a tough stretch here in this inning, nobody's hanging their head, and they're trying to hang together, and that's special.
That was Trevor McNaughton with that triple there, as Milby is the flex player, you might say, the term they use in softball, as they do a DH in baseball. It's 8-0 South Warren. Dalen Rigsby throwing to Adam Lawson. Kate Stevens is at third base. He's popped up into short center field. Second baseman Andrew Huntsman. He's the one playing with the broken finger.
Wow.
And that is the second out of the inning. That brings up Dalton Taylor. Just a gorgeous evening here at South Warren High School. We're glad to have you, those of you watching at go.prepspin.com. The numbers, Rob Clayton, and I've sent some shared with you. It's just, I guess, as the word gets out, but the numbers, seems like each event that we are live streaming, the numbers grow and grow. And to have, over 100 people watching a track and field meet, and we know everybody doesn't know about what we're doing yet, but events like that, a couple of weeks ago we were at a softball game, had almost 300 viewers. So that tells you the interest in watching these student athletes perform is there.
Absolutely, and everybody's busy, and this is tough on moms and dads and guardians to transfer their students back and forth to practice and to games and to come. Many of them obviously have jobs and personal responsibilities, but this also provides an opportunity for extended family members to watch their youngsters participate in athletics, and so that really is valuable in my mind as the exposure that obviously our student athletes will receive, and we hope to continue to not only broadcast but expand it and provide viewership opportunities for anybody that wants to see these student athletes compete.
Ground ball past the third baseman into left field. That will score. The courtesy runner for South Warren. Another base hit for Dalton Taylor, 9-0. And that will bring up the first baseman, Austin Flynn. But I know we're taking baby steps, getting these connections, and I know you've expressed to lawmakers about connections, Wi-Fi, internet connections in parts. Some of your schools are located where internet connection is not very good, if at all.
Right. Yeah, reliability is a significant issue throughout Warren County, and it's nothing new. And I think as more and more people rely on the Wi-Fi, it's going to become even a greater challenge. I will tell you that our local city leaders and county leaders are aware of that. It's part of our strategic planning process for not only Bowling Green but the Warren County area, and it's something that really needs to be done to level the playing field for many of our families. And
how vital was that during this COVID period where you're going back and you're doing the virtual, and some of them had to go near the schools just to get internet connection?
Absolutely. People would probably be amazed to find out the steps that we took to get Wi-Fi out into our rural areas, just as you mentioned, having hotspots set up at not only our school locations but some churches. We took them to students' homes. We really tried to do everything that we reasonably could to provide that access for our students, because we know how critical not only the educational process is, but also the access piece.
All right, we're going to step out. We have some gracious sponsors helping provide coverage of our live stream, so we're going to step out after one. It's Warren Central trailing South Warren 9-0. You're watching live coverage on the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network.
Leachman Buick GMC is the #1 GMC dealership in Kentucky and multiple winner of the GM Mark of Excellence Award, and just recently achieved the #1 ranking as the most trusted GM service department in the Southeast United States. If something isn't right with your vehicle, no matter the make or model, just give Leachman a call. We offer a 15-minute diagnosis at no charge. Schedule your next visit at LeachmanAuto.com and discover why generations of customers choose Leachman Buick GMC.
The thing I know about Franklin Bank and Trust is that they are large enough to serve your banking needs, but small enough to know you.
We want to know our bank gives back to the community.
When I call my bank, I want to talk to a real person.
Yes, we need a local banker that we can depend on.
Franklin Bank and Trust wants to keep banking personal. That's why all of our banking decisions are made at the local level. That's what you do in a hometown bank. You put people first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to South Warren, live coverage on the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network. Scott Thompson, Mike Cleff got you on the camera there. Rob Clayton, the superintendent of Warren County Schools, finally breaking a schedule, and we've got everything we're ironed out where we're getting our connections. The council that you had, the council meeting last week that you had, there's just so many things, and you had a drop-dead time, about an hour and a half, covers so many things. And, you know, it was hard to get everything in an hour and a half.
It really is, especially when you want to engage the community, and we want to solicit their feedback and their questions. And we really covered some excellent questions that our community had, and it lets us know what other information we need to be disseminating.
This is Jacob Bellmere, the shortstop freshman for Warren Central, batting here in the second, 9-0. South Warren in the first inning. Got a man picked off over at third base to end the inning. He'll be followed by Andrew Huntsman and Clay Golden, facing the left-handed throwing Cole House of South Warren. That's a strike. But, you know, the thing I liked was there was a lot of good questions. You had a question and answer period, and there were some really good questions asked of you.
Yeah, and I think the main question folks want to know is, how is this Senate Bill 128 going to play out? It's better known for some people as the red shirt year, do-over year, supplemental school years, the actual terminology in the bill that was passed by and signed by the governor. But I think the key piece there that we want to make sure our community knows is the fact that if a student is retained under this provision, they would have to repeat the entire coursework that they that they participated in during the pandemic. And that's not ideal for most situations. We know that there's been interrupted learning. We knew from the very beginning that our focus was going to be to mitigate any potential learning loss and the impact of the pandemic on our students' learning, both inside the school and virtually. But we want to make sure that those that are interested in what that provision is, that they understand exactly what it entails. And the other piece, Scott, that we want folks to know is even if the board were to not support Senate Bill 128, we are always going to work with each individual family and student to try to come up with the best decision possible. So it does not preclude in particular student from being retained. The concern that our board has, and certainly I do as a superintendent, it's all or none. And I don't think it's in the best interest of any school district to make a decision that's all or none without taking into consideration each individual circumstance.
Warren Central goes down in order as Clay Golden hits right back to the pitcher. We'll hold it right here talking with Superintendent Rob Clayton as South Warren leads Warren Central 9-0. Also, they want to talk about the athletic side of it, but the KHSAA has a provision in there. You turn 19, you're done. You cannot compete at 19. And if some of these are thinking, hey, I can go back and get this extra year of eligibility, well, that's a school board decision. Plus, you got the KHSAA rule to back that up as well.
That's right. And so it's really important to understand what can and cannot be done. And there's also this NCAA stipulation that's out there for athletes that want to participate in Division I NCAA athletics, and that entails the fact that your coursework only counts for the first 4 years of high school. And so if you repeat a year of high school, you're going to come up a year short of credits in most cases. And obviously that wouldn't be in the best interest of any student athlete. And so again, that's another example of why the all or none is problematic. And again, we want these decisions, from my perspective, I much prefer those to be made at the school level, the local level, where people know the individual child. I don't think it's healthy for the superintendent, for example, to be making a decision on what's best for a kindergarten at Alvaton Elementary. We have talented people in our schools, talented leadership, and I have every confidence that in conjunction and collaboration with the guardian or parent of a particular student, that they can make the best decision for that particular student.
You're watching live stream coverage, 14th District Baseball, as Warren County Public Schools has 4 high schools here: South Warren, Greenwood, Warren Central, and Warren East. As the vision you had, and when you and I met several months ago to talk about this envision that has come to life here, about having a Warren County Public Schools sports network, getting the equipment, with the pandemic, we're back order, and then the school process of having to go through getting the necessary equipment. We didn't rush. We wanted to make sure we had the right equipment here. And I know on your IT end, they are working tirelessly to help us with our live stream, as they're in touch with me daily on this. And I think this vision is just is only going to grow from here.
Well, Scott, you have a unique perspective. You've worked both inside Warren County Schools and outside of Warren County Schools with a number of organizations, and you know that we have incredibly talented people who are willing to always assist, and our technology department is no different. Mr. Robbie Floor, does an outstanding job leading that group, but he would also be the first to tell you he's got numerous technology experts in that department that also could lead it just like he does. It's just a really tremendous group of people. But I think the point that really resonates for me, we would not do this if we didn't feel like we could do it in the right way. And what I mean by that is having you with your tremendous experience and passion for athletics, but more importantly for kids and success. And then the gentleman to my right here, Mike Cleff, I've come to know him over the last several years. started when he was at WBKO, and now he's an employee here, and I couldn't be more proud of that. And to have him, along with you, leading this, it's we're very fortunate.
Well,
no doubt.
being a proud county school graduate, graduating from Warren Central, my wife, both daughters are graduates of this great school system. I've been fortunate to be involved in this side of the broadcasting for over 40 years now, and haven't announced it yet, but I'll go ahead and tell you I had to reschedule a game coming up here in about 2 weeks because, once again, our good friend Julian Tackett and I'm working the state cheer and dance competition. So we rescheduled a softball game in a couple of weeks so I could go be a part, as we will have schools from Warren County schools participating in the state cheer and the state dance and everything. But I will, the way it's scheduled, I'll still be able to do the Warren East track. The way it's going to be, the state cheer is going to be, they haven't announced it yet, but I guess I better watch how I say it. But the way they're going to do it will be a couple days and then take a day off and then come back and do the state dance. So everybody's had to adapt to these changes here, and really looking forward to once again working another state championship for the KHSAA.
Well, I'm certainly glad for our cheer and dance folks that they get to have you lead that broadcast and the announcements, because that makes the event even more special. And we'll welcome you back after that event, and I know you'll continue to do great things.
Well, as soon as I get back, then we're right back at another 3 events that next week. So that's part of it. But we're glad to do it to spotlight these student athletes that you're seeing Warren Central and South Warren here tonight. Okay, you've had a year with the pandemic. Things came about just like you get an email. It's like a surprise. You get, you're throwing something at you. You've had the chance for over a year. Go back and assess from day one to now. How has Warren County Public Schools answered that call, answered what's happened, and what would you feel like is a grade that you'd give the school system on how you all reacted and how everything has gone?
Well, first of all, I'll defer the grading to our community and those from the outside. We do enough of that in the school system. But, no, in all seriousness, I think anytime you face a complex challenge, one of the most important aspects is you really got to ensure that you have the right people at the table when you're not only gathering the information, but then you start trying to identify potential strategies and so forth. And we could not have done that without a talented group of people. And when I think about some of the mistakes that we observed being made outside of our organization, I think it really could be attributed to not having the right people at the table to help get it right. And you know this, you've been a part of our organization. We try to surround ourselves with individuals that are trying to help us be right, wherever that is. Nobody knew what the finish line was going to look like. We didn't know necessarily what the right landing spot looked like, but I was very confident that we could do it as well or better than any other organization. And fortunately for us, we had a chance to see our local hospitals do a tremendous job and demonstrate that it could be done. And based upon that, we had confidence that if we had the right procedures in place and communication, nothing more important than communication, and that's where we kept the focus, tried to keep it on ensuring everybody was informed of what the next steps were and then trying to be reasonable.
3-1 on the count to Riley Saxon, and he's going to line one into center field. He's going to drop into left center, and Tucker Bishop will score and makes it 10-0 now. South Warren leading Warren Central, and that'll bring up the center fielder Kobe Martin and back to the top of the lineup. As we've talked about facilities, we're finishing up in Greenwood. That auxiliary gym is huge. Warren East has got an auxiliary gym, and work has been done on the Warren Central gym the last couple of years, and cafeteria. And having been a part of that LPC for I don't know how long I was on it, but it just to see these projects coming to fruition is great, because we know it's been really needed for so many years to get the necessary where kids aren't staying till 10 o'clock at school for practice.
Absolutely. It's tremendous for opportunities for students, and just as you mentioned, it was a struggle at times to have the facilities had student athletes going off site for practices and things like that, which is very common across the state of Kentucky, but that doesn't mean it's okay, and doesn't mean that we should settle for that. And that's been a focus over the past 8 years. It does take time. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with the funding structures in Kentucky, and it's very clear where you can spend construction dollars and so forth. And Chris McIntyre, our Chief Financial Officer, has done a phenomenal job of navigating that process and really thinking long term. That's what we're really trying to focus in on, is the ability to look back in 20 years and recognize that we made the right decision at that particular time. And I think as long as we can continue with that focus, we'll be in a good position.
All right, fly out to right field, and that will end the second inning for South Warren. They lead it 10-0. We're talking with Rob Clayton, Warren County Public Schools Superintendent. We'll hold it right here another time. I know our sponsors are fine with everything we're doing, but to get an opportunity just to have you, because tip my hat to you, because it seems like go to an event, you're there. You go to an event, you're there. It's not only athletics, but you're at school plays. You are out in the schools on a daily basis, in multiple schools every day, and I think that means a lot to see when you've got the top dog. He's in your building, every so often. I think that means a lot to these principals and teachers.
Well, certainly getting out and seeing our students is something that's very special. It's something I truly enjoy. There's a lot of tough parts about being a superintendent, but being at the events, watching our students showcase their athleticism in ball games, but then also, as you mentioned, I think about our musicals. We had one this past weekend. I was out of town and unable to attend, but have Greenwood and South Warrens are coming up. I was in town when Warren East held theirs a couple weeks ago, and I'll tell you, that is courage, right?
Yes.
When our students get up on stage and perform, that's something I didn't have the courage to do at that age, and so I truly admire it. But really, it's the best part of this particular position is being out and seeing our kids perform, whether again it's athletics or musicals. We had a robotics tournament just a week or so ago, and I had a number of commitments that morning, but I was going to make sure that I could jump in there and spend about an hour to see what was happening. And the adults, Scott, our adults sacrifice so much time. Unfortunately, we're not able to compensate our coaches near the level of impact that they have on our student athletes and our sponsors. It's just not enough, and so that just requires really special people to lead our students and help them and provide these opportunities.
Nemu Pa will lead off, a freshman for Warren Central, the center fielder. He, Levi Mosley, and Aiden Compton will face Cole House here in the top of the third inning. 10-0, South Warren leading Warren Central. These two teams will play at Warren Central tomorrow night. They've played with different formats of district play over the years. I think a couple of years ago they played three game series. Playing 2 games now. I remember back 15 years or so ago, they would play district doubleheaders. Mm-hmm. So it would be, and that was before South Warren was formed. So you'd have the 4 schools in this district, 2 baseball games and 2 softball games. They would play it, and so it's kind of neat for fans. And then things change. They tried different ways, and I think it's good that you not play these district games all on one site. Like tomorrow night, go to Central.
Absolutely.
They got an opportunity, back and forth there. Nemu Pa strikes out here in the third, brings up Levi Mosley for Warren Central. We're in the top of the third. We're at South Warren Ballpark. South Warren has been a school now, is it 10 years? Is it 2011? Was that the first year? I'm trying to scratch my head on that. That sound about right?
I believe you're correct. I came in 2013, and so I think that was the completion of the second year, if I'm not mistaken.
So we're right in there, yes, sir. Fly ball into right behind the first baseman. Austin Flynn has it. 2 out here in the third for Warren Central. Joey Norman, principal at Warren Central. Really, really super guy and really doing a good job over there, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Joey's all about the kids. His whole administrative team is kind of like, the A-team. Just tremendous advocates for kids, very professional, and would do anything for students. That's really what we search for, Scott. We want adults that will certainly not only lend a helping hand, but build a strong relationship with our students. We know that that's critical for some. It's absolutely essential for their success. And we want to see every student succeed. And there's a lot of ways to determine success and a lot of different avenues. And we just want all of our students to have multiple opportunities when they exit our system as graduates.
Cole House retires. Central in order. We're going to step out for just a few seconds for another one of our sponsors. You're watching live coverage of Warren County Public Schools Sports Network of Warren Central South Warren Baseball.
Does this scenario sound all too familiar? You're fighting through a mountain of medication bottles, not remembering which ones to take. Spring Hill Pharmacy is now offering a free and convenient medication packaging system called SmartPack, a new innovative way to package your medication. Your medication will be arranged by the day and time of day to take them. SmartPack is a free service, along with free citywide delivery. Call us 270-796-3909 to find out more about SmartPack.
We go to the bottom of the third. Probably going to be some changes made for South Warren. Scott Thompson, Mike Cleff, and Warren County School Superintendent Rob Clayton with us tonight. As, of course, our opening broadcast, we have a few little technical glitches there, so we finally got him to be here in the press box with us. 10-0 South Warren, and you know, you've got a good central office staff. You got Jason Kupchella and Melissa Stefanski. In two vital areas. You know, we've mentioned Chris McIntyre handling the finance, but those two have critical roles for you.
Well, absolutely. When you think about an operational standpoint, just think about the operations behind this additional activity here, right? Creating the Warren County Sports Network, and I know Jason was tremendous in expediting all the work that we needed to do on our end to help facilitate this. And in regard to Ms. Stefanski as our Chief Academic Officer, this interrupted learning has been tough, and we have a strong plan, and we were able to share that at the community council meeting last Wednesday for trying to provide as many additional resources to those families and students that feel like they need more as we transition to a new school year.
It's a gorgeous evening. We were about 72 degrees at first pitch. Looks like a good week for the next couple of days here, and that makes it so much enjoyable to be able to be in these press boxes, and we just appreciate each school working with us. Some of the press boxes we have limited positioning in, and we appreciate that, and others have a little more room, and but you know, those aren't always the things that are thought about when constructing athletic facilities. But you know, things go along, changes are made, and accommodating media, which media coverage is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've tried to do on all the facilities that we've designed and built over the last 8 years is to ensure that we have representatives from all aspects at the table. You mentioned that you were part of the LPC, the Local Planning Committee, and if you don't have the right people again at the table, you're going to miss things, and perhaps that may even occur if you do. But certainly we want to do everything we can to try to prevent issues from coming up, and it's about having the right people there in the decision-making process.
Trevor McNaughton leading off here in the third inning for South Warren. He's been on base a couple of times. Waiting on the pitch from Dalen Rigsby, and fouls that back. Hall of Distinguished Alumni just celebrated that a week or so ago.
What a special evening. That's kind of our Super Bowl as a district. Obviously, there's nothing bigger than graduation day, which also is on the horizon. I know I can speak on behalf of our board members. It's a special weekend as we present diplomas to now 7 schools, but with 3 of them being academies. But outside of that, being able to honor and recognize our distinguished alumni is something that I know is near and dear to our board and certainly our organization, and always look forward to it, and it was another special evening.
Superintendent Murley got that started. I remember I was on vacation, and I get a text from him, says, we got a meeting on Monday night. I need you to be there.
You're absolutely right.
And that's how I found out I was on that first committee on the Hall of Distinguished Alumni. I'm sitting on vacation. I get a text from Tim Murley. He says, "You're on this committee. I need you to meet." I said, "Okay."
I think I can speak on behalf of Mr. Burley. Any good superintendent, there's somebody great behind them, and in this case, our former board member at the time, Mike Wilson, and of course our current chair, Kerry Young, and vice chair Gary Chaffin were on the board when that was developed, and I will tell you, Mike Wilson was very instrumental in not only the idea but getting it off the ground, and we take great pride in it. It's always great to see the reactions and responses from our guests. I don't think they quite anticipate the event to be at the level that it is, but hey, it's a Hall of Distinguished Alumni, and we want it to be a first-class evening for all of our recipients and their guests.
That was a double down the left field line by Tanner Graves, second and third here in the bottom of the third for South Warren. Nate Moore is going to pinch hit here for Dalton Taylor. He grounds that one foul. 16 days of in-person-ish
We're
left to go, isn't it?
That's correct, and it's going to be 16 action-packed days. We still are required by the state to provide the K-Prep assessment, and that window starts Friday. Of course, we won't have students in the building on Friday, so we'll have schools administering that as soon as Monday of next week. However, there is a change. There'll be no accountability with this year's state assessment, which was a good move. I'm glad the federal government accepted the waiver from the Kentucky Department of Education, because I don't think that trying to measure accountability after the year that we just experienced is going to be value added. But at the same time, we're always assessing our kids, whether the state assessment occurs or not. That's something that is a part of the teaching and learning process in every classroom, and we try to assess the progress of students daily, if not in many cases by the hour. It's important to keep a close track on how our kids are performing.
Fly ball to right, caught by Aiden Compton, and runners tag and stay as Nate Moore flies out to right. I know there's been some talk, and I think you've been one who's has been out there talking about this, is the legislator wanting to funding private schools, and I believe it's seek money that would follow the students. Kind of explain to the average person what that means and what it would mean to Warren County schools.
Well, basically what it means is the door's been opened to privatize education in the state of Kentucky. We've watched the blueprint play out in dozens of states across the country, and eventually the landing spot will be, it'll follow every kid, and it'll be private, you name it. Now, we're not there at this point right now. For the most part, other than some auxiliary services, the monies would only follow a student to a public school. But again, there are plenty of examples where families will be able to apply for those dollars and utilize them in more of a private setting. The concern is real clear. We don't have the funding. We don't have a funding structure to do that. Now we're going to have two systems. So we've tried to communicate this really in layman's terms, if you will, to help people understand what the end result's going to be. And so we're going to have two systems. There's no additional revenue stream to come in. They did provide monies for kindergarten. Right now the state statute only requires half funding, and so the legislature, just for next year, is going to fully fund education. And the reason it's only for next year is because the statute didn't change, and there's no funding stream to sustain it. And so that was very troublesome. I think that's why I'm confident that's why our local legislators did the right thing and did not support the bill that, again, is not going to benefit public school education in Kentucky. In terms of local impact, we'll be one of the last to be affected. Primarily because of our growth, but primarily because folks are choosing our school system. As you know, you've seen the numbers. We still remain one of the fastest growing school systems, and a lot of that has to do with the viability of our community. We're beneficiaries of that. Having Western Kentucky University in your backyard is a tremendous asset to this community. We have a tremendous Bowling Green area chamber of commerce, close collaboration with the schools. There's a lot of unique aspects that we have in this community that probably a good percentage of our community do not realize. But at the end of the day, anytime you have two systems and you're not adequately funding the true cost of educating kids, there are going to be tremendous complications, and there's going to be losers. And so what will happen, Scott, over time, again, this is not some great prognostication. We've watched it play out. You're going to see greater discrepancies across the state. We're going to do our best to try to minimize that. You've seen that over the last 8 years when you see now, for example, our 4 high schools, state-of-the-art facilities, right? We've really worked hard to provide the very best no matter where your child attends, but that's not going to be the case across Kentucky. In some cases, based on just resources. Resources are limited. And then the other concern is you're going to see greater concentrations of poverty. It's just the way it plays out. And I've heard people say, well, don't we have that now? We do. But if you don't think that it can be much worse, you can travel north to Indiana. There's some prime examples of that. So we're going to continue to educate not only our legislators but our community about what the true purpose of public school education is about. And the reality is it's good for all kids. I truly believe that. All 3 of my children, well, I've got one that'll, here, God willing, in 3 weeks will be the 3rd public school graduate. But my point in that is there are a certain portion of kids that if we don't exist, there's nobody to educate them. They're not lined up to do that, but we will.
And the good thing the school system has done is made sure that these kids who need food have it. All summer long you're providing meals at these schools. You've got buses going out supplying meals. And I think, yes, you're getting federal funding for that, but to see your employees who take a lot of pride in going out and serving these kids, whether they come to the school or they go out.
It was amazing. I went out there and tried to do it with them just to show my appreciation for the tremendous work. And I'm telling you, they all had smiles on the face and, lifting these heavy boxes of food and doing it again, knowing that it was going to have a positive impact on families. And it wasn't just kids, right? We were feeding the community, and we'll continue to do that as best we can. And we're doing it prior to the pandemic. It just obviously became very obvious with those conditions.
Yeah, and just thankful to have those resources and enough staff. Line drive into left field is going to drop right in front for a base hit. I believe Nemu Pa has moved over into left field. Clay Golden is now pitching as Graves scores from third. Flynn moves over to third, and it's first and third, South Warren. They lead it 12-0. 15-run rule is in effect after 3, and then it's 10 after 5 there. But it's you don't see these Warren Central kids. You don't see them heads down. You don't see them throwing gloves, in the dirt. You see them up there. They're battling. And Steve Albert told me a week ago he had a player on his team that never played baseball before, was his designated hitter.
Wow.
So, getting the athletes out, he was just thankful to have enough to have a season this year.
And see, that's incredible for that young man to have an opportunity, having not played baseball. As you and I both know, there are many programs. We have several here that if you haven't played prior to high school, you're probably not going to make the team. But that doesn't mean that this opportunity is not just as valuable for that young man. So I'm proud that we can offer that. Again, I think it speaks volumes to their character. But also, Scott, you've been in our schools. And when you walk into Warren Central High School, you've seen our students performing in the classroom. You see how, how respectful they are in the hallways.
Yes.
This doesn't surprise you, I know, because you're basically seeing exactly how they carry themselves each and every day during the school day.
And speaking of Warren Central, I think I mentioned it on the live stream last week, there's over 40 different languages spoken. That shows you how diverse that Warren Central has become. But yet everybody finds a way to communicate. Mm-hmm. And I remember the testing when I was serving on site base that you had to, meet 16 out of 16 of those at that time cores scorings that the state set. And at Warren Central would always be too short because the way the testing was.
Right.
Kids were here 100 days or less. They're being thrown in there testing, and so therefore you're not going to meet all that criteria that the state set. So, and that's because we have a lot of migrants come in here, and Warren County's done a good job of getting them to communicate, and a lot of times it's their first spoken English here.
No, you're absolutely right. We have the highest migrant population of any school district in the state of Kentucky, which again would shock folks when you think about that no matter what the metric that you measure for performance in a school district, we're a top 10% performer in every one of those, and it's because of the quality of our people. But then also, a language barrier just means that it's going to be difficult for you to communicate your learning in that particular language. It's no different than if I were parachuted to Burma tomorrow, you certainly wouldn't want to see me take their standardized test. It obviously is going to reflect very little knowledge on my part, but it doesn't mean that we're not equally as capable. And again, that's why public schools need to exist. That's our true purpose, is to level the playing field for our kids. And we don't have a better example of that occurring in our district than Warren Central High School, Warren Elementary, Lost River, where we do see, and obviously Moss Middle School, where we have a higher percentage of not only our non-native English speakers, but then also greater concentrations of poverty. We build schools where communities are, and we have to react to that. But nonetheless, the quality is no different no matter which school you go into. We have tremendous people working with our kids. The outcomes look a little bit different, but I can assure you that the native language can certainly have an impact on that.
Kids have find a way of communicating with each other, don't they?
They absolutely do. The respect. I mean, it's really neat to see students helping one another. The Leader in Me, a program initiative that occurred prior to me arriving here, has been also instrumental in developing that respectful culture that I'm very proud of in every one of our schools. And you just don't see that in districts this large. It's because it is a challenge.
Jackson Joyner pitch hitting for South Warren here in the bottom of the third. They're leading 13-0 over Warren Central. 2 on, 2 out. And he's going to fly that one. Foul territory, and over to get it, Levi Mosley. And that will end the third inning. We're visiting with Warren County Public School Superintendent Rob Clayton. We'll visit with him on just a little more after we hear from some of our sponsors here on the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network.
Leachman Buick GMC is the #1 GMC dealership in Kentucky and multiple winner of the GM Mark of Excellence Award, and just recently achieved the #1 ranking as the most trusted GM service department in the Southeast United States. If something isn't right with your vehicle, no matter the make or model, just give Leachman a call. We offer a 15-minute diagnosis at no charge. Schedule your next visit at LeachmanAuto.com and discover why generations of customers choose Leachman Buick GMC.
The thing I know about Franklin Bank and Trust is that they are large enough to serve your banking needs, but small enough to know you.
We want to know our bank gives back to the community.
When I call my bank, I want to talk to a real person.
Yes, we need a local banker that we can depend on.
Franklin Bank and Trust wants to keep banking personal. That's why all of our banking decisions are made at the local level. That's what you do in a hometown bank. You put people first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
As you see, Mike Cleff giving us a hand view of South Warren Ballpark here tonight. As he's zooming in down there, Steve Albert, the head coach at Warren Central, not with the team. Sent home from school earlier today, couldn't keep fluids, couldn't keep anything down. Best to keep him away when you've got limited numbers. And the assistant coaches were having a little fun talking about you, Steve, if you're watching, about you having to go home and miss. But we have Warren County Public Schools Superintendent Rob Clayton with us here tonight. And virtual learning, is that going to continue in the fall?
Well, as you know, we have operated Beacon Academy, a virtual high school, since I believe it's 2015 now, and we're going to continue with that. One of the decisions that the board does need to make, are we going to continue with a virtual option at each of our schools like we did this particular year, or go back to our traditional format? And right now, from my perspective, I think it's best that we go back to offering the Beacon Academy if that's something that folks want for their child. But at the same time, if you want to participate in school activities, athletics, then as of right now, my recommendation would be that those particular student athletes be enrolled at the particular school.
In the seats 5 days a week.
In the seats 5 days a week, following through with the same expectations that we have for all of our students. But again, that's something that the board, we've had discussions. I've shared my thoughts with them. And, you know, one thing I do want to share, Scott, going back to the question about our success over the past year, it would not have been done without a very supportive board. And sometimes that probably goes unnoticed, but the reality is we have 5 board members that care very passionately about our kids, tremendous advocates. They ask lots of questions. Of course, most people only see what happens in public in a board meeting, but we have individual conversations, and we always encourage them to share their thoughts, concerns, because again, we want to get it right, especially when we're making decisions that are going to impact our kids and in some cases our families. But they've been extremely supportive. They've let us do our job, if you will, and that's tough sometimes, right? Because there were a lot of concerns, but again, just could not be more thankful for that. And again, that allowed us to keep our focus on ensuring the safety of our students and staff, and that's our priority.
And that school board had to rely on you because you're the one getting the information from the state and all those sources. You're having to relay to them how it's going to affect us in Warren County Public Schools. And here's my, in your shoes saying, here's my recommendations of how we need to go about this. And you were doing that daily, I would imagine.
No, absolutely, and sometimes by the hour, because information was changing in real time. Sometimes due to no fault of anyone, and sometimes perhaps a lack of leadership. But nonetheless, we have to deal with it. And our priority, we met with our leadership and still are meeting with them, as you know, every week to ensure that we're cascading the most essential information to them, down to the students, down to the faculty, and certainly our parent community. But it was a struggle. I've never experienced a more challenging 9 months of just getting the information, the accurate information, and then trying to develop a plan that would not only meet those expectations, but then also were reasonable. And in some cases, based on our feedback, the guidance changed because we explained to them that we can't operate if the guidance doesn't change.
If I may say so, you were in a no-win situation. Basically, whatever you decided, a lot of people were not going to be happy. A lot of people were, and vice versa. You know, whatever decisions you made, when you have the diverse population and parents we have, you know, you're not going to please everybody, and you still don't please everybody with every decision made. But you do it as a whole over 13,000 students. And how many employees do you have now?
Well, we're up over 2,700 plus, both full and part-time. And you're absolutely right. We know that when we make big decisions, it's not going to please everybody. But I will tell you, one of our goals is to try to communicate in such a way that people can respect the decision. And I do think in most cases, our community knew the why behind the decision. They knew why behind the process. And I think that, again, helped us navigate this in a somewhat effective manner.
We're in the top of the fourth. Warren Central, Adam Logston struck out. Dalen Rigsby struck out. Cade Stevens batting, facing Cole House. South Warren leads 13-0 as you see dusk starting to creep in here at South Warren Ballpark. And that's fouled at the plate. He'll stay alive as we're in the top of the fourth inning. And you know, hats off to a lot of these booster clubs. You know, they've put time, resource, and money into doing some neat things. Like each, you know, of course, the one thing years ago was that deck built here. All right, Warren East has got a deck. You know, a lot of these schools, that's kind of a neat atmosphere to bring in. That they go and raise the money, they do it themselves.
No, they absolutely do. And I will tell you, now that you brought that up, we know that this past year has been very tough on our athletic programs. They've not been able to generate the gate money for those that typically have large gates, like obviously Friday night football and our men's and women's basketball and some of those events. But we're going to work with our schools to try to mitigate that loss as well. So I want our parents to know that going into next year, I want our kids to be in a situation where they have the necessary resources to have another great season, just as we did that this year and previous years. We don't want the financial impact of the pandemic to impact our kids any longer than necessary. So that is something that we are currently examining right now to determine the actual loss of revenue to each of our sports. And it's not just the ones that tend to resonate more in the state of Kentucky, but we're talking about all of them.
Yes.
We're talking about our Olympic sports because, again, they're just as important as any other activity we provide, which I think is evidenced by the fact that how many track and field meets in high school were streamed across the nation this year, you think? Unless it had
we know of at least 2.
Okay.
And we know of a 3rd coming up, so that's something unique. And coming up tomorrow, and whether you've seen it or not, outdoor events, 1,000 or less, no mask mandate.
That's awesome.
You've started right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're excited about that. We're actually in the process right now of finding out, okay, what more can we do to get more of our community immunized, right? And so
yes.
we're in the process of that. Hope to have an announcement here soon. We want to make sure that we have all the information that we need to provide clarity. But the latest recommendation that's welcomed, I'm sure, by everybody. And again, it just speaks to that we're well on our way to a better than normal year next year, 5 days a week. And it's my optimism that we won't be wearing masks indoors and so forth, that we're on the other side of it. But obviously, I can't predict 4 months from now, but
we're trending in the right way.
There's no doubt, and I think that again, optimistically, that'll be the situation for us, and we'll see how it plays out.
We're going to the bottom of the 4th here at South Warren Ballpark. The Spartans of South Warren lead the Warren Central Dragons 13-0. Coming up tomorrow night, we've got baseball for you. We'll be at Warren East, Bowling Green at Warren East. They are playing tonight at Bowling Green. We don't have any scores yet. We want to give you a chance to listen to Rob Clayton, the superintendent of Warren County Schools, to talk on a variety of topics, not only athletics, but the academics. And there's just so many components that go in. They just don't walk in and just say, here's what we're going to do. There's so much thought process, so much research that goes into each and every decision that you and your staff and school board make.
It's definitely a collective effort, and that's something that we're very blessed to have in terms of our leadership talent across the district, both at the school level and at central office. And again, they've been instrumental in helping us get this right each step of the way.
All right, looks like we have a pinch hitter here for South Warren. I have to look him up. I don't have him on my original roster. Cardwell? All right, Chris Cardwell. There he is. Okay. Didn't have him originally on the roster. 20. We have him, but we just didn't have a number. So hello to Chris Cardwell's folks out there watching, hopefully. We're in the bottom of the 4th. The one thing I know that's always good is when we can better the learning environment for the students and providing a better teaching environment for the teachers. But Cumberland Trace Elementary School will open this fall. I can remember going there back in the 70s, and it was a different kind of a pod situation. We had open classroom. It's almost like team teaching at times. Right. And it was distracting at times, too, because you've got 3 teachers. If you're in that middle room, you got teachers on both sides maybe teaching something different than what your teacher's doing.
You're right. That was a fad that came through there, I guess, in the 70s, 80s, the open classroom concept. But we are excited to build and open this brand new state-of-the-art facility there off I-65. It's going to be tremendous for the community. And we're going to have tremendous plans, if you will, for the former Cumberland Trace. As you know, space is always a challenge in a district that continues to grow, but we can't wait to christen that building and welcome the new students here at the start of the 21-22 school year.
All right, this is Thomas Lambert. He's pinch hitting here in the fourth. On his way to second is Chris Cardwell. We're in the bottom of the fourth inning, Warren Central and South Warren here tonight. Big difference from Saturday. Mike and I were inside, but yet we had jackets, we had the heater going. Folks were bundled up over at the track meet, and you see everybody sitting around with short sleeves and just enjoying the evening. And there's just something about spring sports, you know, that temperature transitioning upward, you're getting outdoors as opposed to all those indoor activities.
It's really a fun part of the year for me, and especially when the weather cooperates. And right now it is today, and looks like it will till Thursday, and then we'll
couple of days.
Little front come through, but beautiful night.
Hit by pitch, Tanner. That was Thomas Lambert. He's hit by pitch, so it's first and second for South Warren.
You can also see over there the new Rich Pond Elementary coming up behind over the 345 sign, and under those lights over there. So we're excited about that. That facility was very challenging because of the limited space and the layout, and so we're excited about that new addition as well.
Here's you can see it right through the trees there. That's I can remember when I played. We played Little League in Babe Ruth back there.
That's right.
And that ball field was sand. It was pretty much a sand infield. And you're talking about some fun, you know, taking ground balls, playing over there. It was dirt, but it had so much sand in it, you just couldn't get your footing right. And that's when each elementary school had its own community ballpark, and it was before they built these nice complexes in Warren County Public Schools. So we go to Alvaton. Alvaton did not have an outfield fence. You hit it, you ran.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, each school had its own unique ball field about it. You know, you go up to Bristow, you know, right behind the old school. Go up there and play.
You know, speaking of those ball fields, we have a tremendous partnership with Warren County Parks and Rec, and I can't thank them enough for working with us and obviously helping us maintain some of these facilities, primarily at our elementary schools. As you mentioned, we have playgrounds and certainly ball fields at, I believe, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that cannot be done without a tremendous partnership with Warren County Parks and Rec, because they really do the upkeep piece for us, and makes it more manageable, because our 23 schools, that's a lot to try to oversee.
It is. Here's Keegan Milby striking out, and that'll bring back up.
To the plate for the Spartans, number 16, Nate Moore.
Nate Moore will bat again. He came in last inning. We're in the bottom of the fourth inning, and this is the 14th district matchup here tonight. Warren Central at South Warren. South Warren off to a 2-0 start in the district. They've won 7 in a row. The last time South Warren lost was back on April the 9th against Madison Central. And then since then, they've beaten Ohio, beat Greenwood twice, beat Metcalf, beat Glasgow, Muhlenberg County, and Allen County, Scottsville. And then they've got 2 here with Warren Central. And then on Friday, they've got Butler County at home. Then they're hosting the South Warren Lumberjack Classic this weekend. Going to be busy out here playing some baseball.
Will be.
Clay Golden on the mound in relief for Warren Central. Ball didn't get far enough away for the runner. 13-0, and just so much going on in Warren County schools. There's not a day goes by where your calendar of what you could go to is probably not 10 foot long.
Well, I will tell you again, it's the most rewarding part of the job. So if I'm not tied up to a school commitment or a personal commitment, I'd just soon be here watching our student athletes perform and have a good time, and watching the interactions not only between our student athletes but the coaches as well. And I know as a parent it's a special time as well, and looks like that thing is gone.
That's going to be out of here, a home run.
Wow.
and that will end our game. That will make it 16-0, and that will be a walk-off 3-run homer for Nate Moore. That ball just kept carrying to right field. Mike Cleff was on it off the crack of the bat. And that will be the ball game, 16-0. And that is now 8 in a row for South Warren. They improved to 10-3. What a neat way to end the ball game. And you see Warren Central walking off. We've talked about them all night, but you know they're not hanging their heads. You know, it's another night for them to learn, and you know hopefully some young men in that feeder system at Moss or some at Warren Central will see. Come on out and play. You know, that's what it's about. You've got the opportunities here. You never know. You may get a scholarship, you may not. You know, and some people do it just because they love the game.
No, absolutely. And the life lessons, I think, are the most critical element, other than having a healthy pastime to keep your mind occupied as an adolescent. But, again, just class group of student athletes. We see it in the school building, and I know it's disappointing. I've been on this as a player. I know what it's like to be on the losing end of a somewhat demoralizing score. And like I shared earlier with some folks here in the booth, even you know, most student athletes, if you do it long enough, you're going to experience it, whether it be as a high school athlete or even as a college athlete. It's just part of it. So again, hats off to them. And I think you also would be remiss if you didn't point out South Warren's ball players and how they handled it. They obviously knew this game was in control very early on, but they conducted themselves and really represented the very best of Warren County Public Schools, which is something we talk about daily. And
these coaches get along. These coaches really get along. So in every sport, to see them and how they communicate with each other, they're talking before, after a game. Just like they'll be sitting there talking, and it has nothing to do with baseball. No. They're talking about other things going on. They might talk a little bit of baseball or softball or whatever the sport, but they're just catching up with each other, basically.
No, you're absolutely right. And of course, these baseball coaches in particular, they know, just like most good coaches know, talent is a critical element, right?
Yes.
And so when you have strong talent, you got a chance to do something special, and every now and then you have down years. And of course, Warren Central has been struggling for quite some time here, but it's a numbers game, every sport, and it starts at the earlier ages. I can tell you that that's something that is in the works in terms of trying to generate more interest in our younger generation, because again, there's so many things that can occupy, so many activities students can participate in, and we still feel that sports are a healthy component of the school experience, provided that the adults keep it in the right perspective. And unfortunately, we don't see that as much as we would like to across the board. But I think in general, you do see it in Warren County Public Schools. We don't want this to define our students' life beyond high school. We want it to really help shape their next phase, because it's my hope that this isn't the best part of their life. You know, we hear that a lot. I've shared with my three students, I don't want your high school, I want it to be a positive experience, but I want you to experience the ups and downs because you're going to get it in life. But most importantly, I want them to be in a position where they have hope for a better day tomorrow, right? And some of our kids, that's what we are. We're the hope for them that there is a better outcome down the road. And we want to put our arms around them and help guide them. But again, I think it's important to keep a healthy perspective on these opportunities.
So now, does Rob Clayton, the superintendent, become Rob Clayton, the private citizen, once he walks out the door here in the press box?
I'm trying to think here right now. I've not had dinner, and so I'm going to try to find a quick bite to eat and then finish my day job. Unfortunately, that has not concluded for today. But again, thank you all for really your passion and commitment to this, and I'm excited about this. I'm sure you've mentioned our goal is to have students be a part of this. In fact, I hope someday in the near future I come up here and the kids are doing it and you guys are overseeing it.
We're sitting back here taking a nap, sipping ice
well,
water.
We don't want to remove you completely because you guys are too good. We want to, but in all fairness, it's an opportunity for kids to learn the broadcast business, and no, not just because you're going to be a broadcaster. The reality is these experiences shape kids' lives, and we want our kids to experience a variety of different things, regardless of what they may or may not think their interest is, because it's going to change, right? We know that.
Yes.
Most 18-year-olds have no idea what the next 20 years is going to entail. Now, they'll tell you because we ask them, and they're going to say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But you better believe that
it's changed 3 or 4 times by the time they get to those next 10, 15 years, right?
Yep, and in many cases, despite our best efforts, it's just part of the maturity prospect, if you will, or aspect. And I can tell you, being a superintendent never crossed my mind before the age of 40. Never, just was not something that I aspired to do. But again, when opportunities present themselves and you feel like that there's an avenue that you can pursue that can give you a sense of worth, but then also, more importantly, have an impact on somebody else, I don't know what's more powerful than that. And that's what we see throughout our district and all educational organizations. We've got tremendous teachers all across the state, tremendous leaders, all trying, for the most part, to do it the right way and in the best interest of kids.
Well, thanks for your time tonight. I know busy schedule, but we're glad that you finally made it to a broadcast, and the door's always open. You're the boss, so you can come anytime.
I may just come hijack a broadcast or two because I enjoy it, and maybe I'll do more of this when I get to take it to the house down the road and so forth, because I won't be a stranger, because
we don't want you to be.
I enjoy this and really enjoy watching our kids. So I'm going to go down there and say a few words to them and congratulate them for keeping their heads held high. And but thank you guys. Again, we couldn't do this without your professional expertise and passion. Passion yields results, and both of you gentlemen just demonstrate the very best in that area. So thank you all.
We appreciate that. We're going to let our sponsors have a little say. We'll come back for a quick wrap-up. We thank Rob Clayton, Warren County Public Schools Superintendent, with us. You're watching live coverage on the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network.
The thing I know about Franklin Bank and Trust is that they are large enough to serve your banking needs, but small enough to know you.
We want to know our bank gives back to the community.
When I call my bank, I want to talk to a real person.
Yes, we need a local banker that we can depend on.
Franklin Bank and Trust wants to keep banking personal. That's why all of our banking decisions are made at the local level. That's what you do in a hometown bank. You put people first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Does this scenario sound all too familiar? You're fighting through a mountain of medication bottles, not remembering which ones to take. Spring Hill Pharmacy is now offering a free and convenient medication packaging system called Smart Pack, a new innovative way to package your medication. Your medication will be arranged by the day and time of day to take them. Smart Pack is a free service, along with free citywide delivery. Call us 270-796-3909 to find out more about Smart Pack. Does this scenario sound all too familiar? You're fighting through a mountain of medication bottles, not remembering which ones to take. Spring Hill Pharmacy is now offering a free and convenient medication packaging system called Smart Pack, a new innovative way to package your medication. Your medication will be arranged by the day and time of day to take them. Smart Pack is a free service, along with free citywide delivery. Call us 270-796-3909 to find out more about Smart Pack.
Your final score tonight, South Warren 16, Warren Central nothing. Game ends in the 4th inning on a 3-run home run by Nate Moore of South Warren. Coming up tomorrow night, be on around 6 o'clock. We'll have more baseball. Bowling Green will be at Warren East. And a schedule note, if you follow us on our social media at WCPS Sports, we posted an updated schedule. Well, just soon after we did that, they've updated a game change from Thursday night to Wednesday night. South Warren at Greenwood softball. That's a 5:30 start. So instead of Thursday night, we'll have that for you on Wednesday night. Thanks to our sponsors, Leachman Auto, Franklin Bank and Spring Hill Pharmacy. For Warren County Public School Superintendent Rob Clayton, Mike Cleff, Scott Thompson, so long. Final score 16-0 South Warren over Warren Central. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Warren County Public Schools Sports Network.